Okay, so we're going to start this Jpeg project from scratch. Just going through the basic setup you could use to get the site set out, and then start establishing the space that you're going to work with. And so I've got Revit open, and I'm going to use the standard architectural template from the projects menu there. And while that's opening, I'm going to just switch over to the, sorry, not to that one, to the folder I've got with the Jpeg drawings, and I'm going to make sure I open the site plan with Acrobat Pro, which you'll get to when you right-click on the file, go to Open With, and choose Acrobat DC, or you can just go to Edit with Adobe Acrobat, and that does the same thing. So it has to be Acrobat Pro, not just Acrobat Reader. So now we can go to File, Export to, Image and JPEG. It needs to be a JPEG file, or any image. It can't be a PDF. Yeah, you can't insert PDFs into Revit. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to save it into the same folder so everyone can get to it. There we are. So I'm then going to go in my Revit file to the site floor plan, and then go to Insert, Image, and then browse to find that file on the V drive, 2018. Digital environments, and Jpeg, and there's our JPEG. And I'll just click anywhere to place it, roughly in the center maybe. But now I'm going to zoom out to find some sort of reference that I can use to scale this image. And just looking around there, not finding much. Good old, who is it, Mervac. Haven't put a visual scale, which would be nice. So let's see if we can find something we've got a scale for. Otherwise, there are other methods, but if we can find something that we've got a measurement for, that's the best way. And yeah, good old, a lot of architects don't like anything that gives you any actual information that's useful. Yeah, so we can definitely use those, yeah. But yeah, it's amazing how often they want to take the measurements off these things. So let's see if we can find a door or something. Looking at the image there, it often will come in at a size that relates to the page size, and they have at least put the size there. So at AO, on AO sheet, it's 1 to 250. Who uses 250? Anyhow, so it's 1 to 250. Oh, God, who are these guys? Anyhow, so they don't put their name on there. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's use a door, because doors generally you can assume are about 900 or a metre, and if there's a door there, there's one, that might give us an idea. Just so you know the process, and we'll check this properly in a minute. So clicking on the scale button, I've got the image selected, I'm going to click scale, and it's very simple. We can just click on one point to one side of the door, another point on the other side. Well, what do you know? After all my complaining, it's the right size already. So they did set it up reasonably well, even though they didn't put any measurements on. I'm still going to show you the process. So here we click the 2 points, and then we type in the size, 900, enter. It, of course, is not going to change size in this case because it was already right. Just going to measure something else, which is always a good idea to make sure. So are these car spaces? And so measuring there, they should be 2.5 metres across roughly. Yep. Pretty good. And going the other way, they should be 5.4 or 5.5. And what are they? Ah, okay. Oh, well, here we go. No, they're a bit too small, but that probably is right. So still can have a look at some other things, some tables and chairs there. Again, let's measure those. So that table should be about 1 metre across, or maybe a bit less if it's a small one. 640, that works. And the chairs, yeah. Would be nice though if we had a figured dimension that we could check. Ah, here we go. Finally, there we are. So that's what we want. As soon as you see some numbers, then you can be sure of it. So if we measure here, I'm sure it's right. Oh no, here we go. Okay, so somehow they've got it very close to the right size, but it seems a little bit off. Yeah, it is. Okay, so lucky I checked. All right, so now I'll do the scaling properly. So again, I've selected the image, and I'll click on the scale button. And so always with digitally produced CAD drawings, you measure to the centre of the line. With hand drawing, it can be different, but definitely with computer drawings, always to the centre. So here, I'm going to go from the centre of this dimension line to the centre of the opposite one, really trying to keep it at that angle. Oops, got it. And then type in the size we want it to be, which is 3000. Enter. And now this should be the right size. But again, it's good to double check. So clicking on the measure button, again, I'm just going to measure between those 2 points and make doubly sure. There we go, that's absolutely fine. So let's just go back and check now, maybe one of these car spaces, which should be better now. So to here, yeah, 5.4, perfect. Okay, so that's the right size, and then you can select it and put it in the position you want and then pin it. So you've got the pin icon, when it's selected up on the Modify tab, and that locks it in position. So possibly if you're working on just the building, focusing on that, then maybe that could be what's centred in that view. We'll pin it. And as you've probably seen me do many times, I'm going to duplicate this view. So by right-clicking on that site view, I've got a duplicate view, and really importantly, choose duplicate with detailing, not just duplicate. And I'm going to then go back to the original site view, select my image, and I want to delete it, so I'm going to unpin that first, and I can delete it from there. And I've done that deliberately just so that you can, so it's clear that we've got a version of the site plan where the image is inserted and one without. And so now I'm going to get some other references. So I'm going to search for that site, and actually I'm going to navigate to it. So with Google Maps, we can go and get satellite view of that site. So it's the one, it's the glebe one, isn't it? Yep. So just remind me where it is. This one? Yep. So let's go to satellite and see if we can find it. So, is it St John's Road, is it? Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd see it straight away.
The address is 1 Dalby Way, Forest Lodge.
Oh, it's Forest Lodge. Oh, right, so it's down here.
Further up towards the park. It's on the back of Jubilee Park.
Oh, it is back. Oh, so it's not Forest Lodge. Okay.
No, not
Yeah.
Jubilee Park. It's to the left.
Oh, Jubilee Park. So that's all the way up here. Yeah, so that's not Forest Lodge. Yeah, okay. Yeah. There it is. Okay, right. Okay, so is that Forest Lodge? You're saying right. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, because Forest Lodge. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yep. All right. So there we are. Okay. So you can have that at any size that you like, as long as you keep the scale bar. So that's what I want. And this is normal when you have satellite images; they often are distorted like this. So that's something we've got to live with. And so to do a screen capture, you can use the shortcut Control Print Screen, or the snipping tool. It's always good. So I'm just going to select the area I want, again making sure I get the scale bar down the bottom right corner. And we'll save that. And I'll save it again so you can get to it. So we'll call this Google Maps Champions. Okay, so now I can insert that into Revit, and I want this one separate, so I'm going to give that a new name. I'm going to call it site, well, let's just say PDF. And then I'll duplicate that again, and I'll use duplicate with detailing again, so I get the image as well, even though I'm going to delete it afterwards, just to help me line it up. And then, again, using image, on the insert tab, I can insert that satellite image. Oops, there it is. And I'm just going to click to the side to place that. And then zoom in on the scale bar. Again, just like before, click the scale tool. Measure from the centre of this line to the centre of the other side of that scale bar. And then type in 20,000, of course 20 metres. And so now this should be the same scale as our image. But of course we need to rotate it to line it up with our site plan. So I'm going to just click rotate. And, well, I don't even have to drag the base point, but I'll show you how to do that just in case you need to. So I'm going to drag that base point onto maybe the ridge of one of these roofs, and then pick up the angle of that roof. Again, it's distorted, so I've got to use a bit of judgment there. And then bring that around to 0 degrees, which it will snap to, but you can see there it's snapping to something else. So I'm just zooming out to try to get it to snap to horizontal, which, well, maybe I'll have another go at it. So I'll just again do rotate and drag it over here. Now, if you find that happening where it's not wanting to snap to what you want, you can press Tab, and sometimes that helps. In this case, it's still not, so I'm going to type SN, which is snap to nearest, which will force it to snap to where you move the cursor, basically. And then now I can bring that up and just rotate it slightly. So now I can move this and line it up with the satellite image. And I'm going to just click send to back, so it goes underneath the other one. And we can try our best to line it up. Unfortunately, in Revit, you can't make these transparent. So a good option there is to draw some reference planes to mark the edge of the building. So I'm just going to trace these over that original PDF. And maybe just one for this baseline here. And one at the top. And one down the side. That should be enough. Don't try and be too perfect with these things, because you're not going to use the satellite image to work out the size of the building here. I'm going to delete that image now from this view. We've still got it in the other view. So here now I'm going to line this satellite image up with my reference planes, using the arrow keys to nudge that. And again, you would never model the building off an image like that. This is more to get the locality. So for your locality drawings, and you should be doing site analysis and all of these early preparatory drawings where you need to know the local amenities and the other features, and you can work that out much more easily with this. So I'll rename this view and we'll call it site Google satellite. And then another great one, Google's good because it gives you all of the local features, and I'll often do a few of these. That one I showed you earlier of Bradley's Head.
We need a much cleaner.
I'm going to show you. Yeah, I will show you how to get a cleaner one. Yeah, but this, I had about 15 satellite images to do this one, all stitched together. And I've done lots like this. So, yep, so you can zoom out and do another one if you really want to see where other features are that are further away. And then the other good thing with Google Maps, of course, is you've got Street View, which you don't have with the other one I'm going to show you, which you may know about. Do you know the other option for satellite images? You should all know. Yeah, right on. Yeah, 6 maps. Yep. It is. Yeah, much better. So this is the government one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so you can search for addresses, but sometimes it's easier just to navigate through. Here we are. And where is it? That's it. Is that it? Oh yeah, wrong path. Okay, yep. Sorry. Let's do that. Where's July? There it is. Yep. Yep. No, you're much clearer. Yep. Yep. Yeah, government have had, like, planners and people like that have had access to this for years, but they've made it publicly available a while back. So, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can go back in time. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, where am I? Totally. Where are we? Base maps. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Is that the early kind of aerial images?
Would be pretty close to it, yeah.
Yeah, and the resolution maybe isn't going to be.
It should be, no, it should be better.
Oh. Yeah. No. Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah.
So they're there, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, look, if you know AutoCAD well, yeah, it will. If you've got to draw a lot, if you want to draw a lot of line work that you're going to trace over, yeah, AutoCAD will be better. Yeah.
It shouldn't be that bad.
No, but maybe some areas.
Top those two now? See when you do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think for some areas it's better than others, maybe.
yeah.
That's here, so they're base maps, and then you can use these different options. But I'll use this one. And so there are tools in here to create PDFs. They don't really work all that well though, so you're often better off just using the snipping tool again. And this time the scale bar's over on the left. So I'm just going to make sure I get that. And then save as, and we'll call this 6 maps. Trim sheets. Oh, so is it coming up there?
Well, like half of the image is super clear.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like it's super clear.
Oh, right. Right.
Compared to this.
So it would have been aerial photography though, so oh yeah, definitely, but they might have only had like some of it clear and the others might not be so much. Okay, so again, same process in Revit. I'll duplicate this view with detailing, and then I'll just leave that Google one there to help me line it up for the time being. Go back to insert, and just repeating the same process. Insert image, get the other one. Click to place it. Click the scale button. Go from one side of the scale bar to the other. And this time the size of that scale bar is 30 metres. So you need to always make sure you know the size you're trying to make it. And again, I'll just click rotate and drag my base point onto the corner of one of those sawtooth roof shapes. Try and get the angle of it. Bring it around 0 degrees. That's good enough. So I usually use the 6 Maps ones for the close-up view, and then the Google Maps just for all the amenities and the locality. And it works really well. And it's a really nice thing to have a bit of the locality modelled, even if it's only basic, so things like the nearby streets and pathways and things like that. So when you do your 3D animation, it's got a bit of context. Yeah, that often works really well. Just all these surrounding buildings, just block form, really quick models. And yeah, it looks really good. Someone did that last year, and it was one of the better ones. Yeah. But so you can see how well that lines up, just very quickly scaling it. And I can see these pathways now starting to line up. And I'll just nudge that over. Oops, sorry, that's the Google one. So I'll just bring that over. And you can see there, well, sorry, I've got the building lined up. That's actually the more important thing. And if some of the paths here are a bit off, well, it'd be the scaling possibly, but also, I mean, their perspectives. So even satellite images are perspectives. So you will get some distortion and things that don't line up perfectly. But here you can see the roads there. That's lining up pretty well. That's good enough. Yeah. So that's it. And that's a good starting point. And then possibly, yeah. Well, yeah, so that's... But again, it doesn't need to be perfect. You're not designing the roads and the other things around the building. So as long as it's, it's indicative. So as long as it's close, that's fine. And then you can go from there. So I'll just give you some pointers with the levels. Got an elevation. You can see here that I can see how big my building is already in these elevation views because I've drawn the reference planes. So looking again just back in the view, so I traced around the outline of the building, and that means when I go to these elevation views, I know how big to make the levels. Yeah, it's really important that the levels are big enough for your building. We're going to drag these out, and so north and south work together. They're a mirror image of each other, so they work as a team. And then east and west are the same. So if I go to east and stretch out the levels here, when I go to west, I know that it'll be the same. Sections, not a bad idea to have a look at those. We'll extend those out as we know more about the height. And then the other really important thing to think about is your starting or your base level. So say you've got a ground floor level that's way above your actual ground. Try to keep that ground floor level for the ground, not for the ground floor. Right? So I'm going to rename it. Instead of calling it ground floor, I'm going to say ground line, or just ground. And again, always yes, rename. And so that way, the views that we've just set up, all of those site views, you'll see they're linked to that base level. ground line. So say you've got a ground floor or your bottom floor level that is above the ground surface, and you end up moving that up, that brings your site plans up, and you've got to then adjust them all to make them show what's underneath. Whereas if you do it like this, you're keeping that base level right down at the bottom, and then if you've got it, you're going to have a ground floor above that, and just add that in. So we can just make a new level, call it ground floor, now that we've changed the name of the other one. Yeah, so that same thing, so just try and keep that right at the bottom, yeah. Now,
But what about the lower bit though, the bit that's underground?
oh yeah, so you can move this down, so you can have that negative.
Oh, so that can be underground?
Yeah.
So I thought that's supposed to stay at the actual ground, like the dirt, the surface level is that ground line.
No, it can be below ground, it can be, so I've called it ground line, but that can even be lower. The other thing to think about is whether you're going to work with IHD levels, or you're going to nominate your own starting point for measuring. So if you've got a survey, or we've got a site plan, so let's just have a look at it. It may have levels on it. Maybe not, because they don't want to put measurements by the look of it, but let's see what we can find. Yeah, RLs. And even when they label them as RLs, they're generally taken from IHD, which is sea level, pretty much. Yeah. This site would be, what, 3 metres above sea level anyway, maybe? It's very close to the water. So, or maybe a bit more, maybe, because it wouldn't flood, so maybe 10 metres. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, maybe, yeah. I couldn't believe it. We did another site. I'm working on one in down the other end of Forest Lodge down here. It's 100 metres.
100 metres?
Yeah, I don't know how, but it is. Yeah, it's 100. It's on Westmoreland Street, which is around here. Yeah, yep. I've got the survey. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it really slopes up.
So that's 20. I guess up to Leafwood Road, we've got another 20. Well, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. They did get a lot of sandstone from
A lot of it was from
down the harbour. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Just because there's that big rock shelf that goes the whole way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So let's say 20. No, what? Yeah. I know it seems high, but yeah, that probably could do. So, okay, so move all of your levels up then, and so I'm just going to select all of them, click move, and bring it up. And you want to get an idea about that from the outset. So 20. Well, maybe it's a bit high. 10. If you don't have levels, you just need to nominate the starting point, but try and get the AHD levels. You'd be much better off if you have them. And then, unfortunately, if you've drawn the reference planes before that, you just need to stretch them up. I'll just show you what happens if you don't. So if we go back to this floor plan, notice I can see that reference plane that I've stretched, but I can't see the others. So I just need to go back and extend all of them so they cross through the levels. As well. So I'm going to pick up that section as well if I want to use it. So you can set all of this up before you've made any physical objects, just to get a good working space. And then going one step further, even the elevations. So we know how big the building is with those reference planes, and now we can get those elevations and bring them outside here. So notice I'm selecting them with a window because there are two parts to the elevation. Over here you can see the two in brackets. So just want to bring the whole group together. And then you can of course start drawing all the walls, and you can repeat the process to insert the other floor plans. I won't show you that. Maybe we'll do it later, but if you find the PDF file for each of those levels, I can't see the ground floor there, or if they just called it level 1. Right. Yeah. So I won't show you that, but you can use the same process that I've just shown you to export those as JPEGs, insert them, scale them, line them up, and notice how you've got grid lines here. So I'll probably come back to you on this and show you how you can use grids, and then you should be able to, and you can scale everything perfectly and have your own grids. If it's a building that uses grids, it's definitely something you should use. So make sure you know about the grid tool if you haven't used that one in Revit. That's all there is to it, but you can use the same process for any project, of course. So for the other projects, no. So yeah, but the others I can try and get them if you don't have access to them. Just tell me. So which ones don't you have? That's one I'll have to search for. The silos I can get. Yeah, I'll dig that out. It'll take me a while, but I can get that. The White Bay, the power station, I can get that as well. But if you've got... Right. No, I've got it from previous students. And so I'll dig those out. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll see if I can get the source, the base images they've used to start off. So, yeah, they should be fairly complete floor plans. Yeah, so anyhow, I'll see what I can find. Anyhow, maybe I'll give you some time if you want to try those things, if you haven't done that already, and then take from there.